Hello guys, Assalamu alaikum. We are all set. Hamish, I see ya, but we're not connecting. Are you getting my invite, Hamish, to join? It says Hamish is unable to join, except we are not connecting. Yay, how nice. Okay. Eh, Okay, let's see. I don't know what's going on. Hamish is unable to join. Hamish, I hope you're using your phone. Yeah, and I do accept it, and then it just says that you're unable to join. Are you using your phone? Wonder why it's not working. Okay, let's try it again. Ah, gotcha.
Technology, hey? I have no idea what happened there, but I've made it.
I hope this
Hello.
time it doesn't go bonkers.
No, I have 5Gs. Everything is good, so everything is perfect today. We have made it.
I have two devices and I have my 4G, so
Hmm.
wish me luck.
Oh, yeah. It's we're being triggered already, aren't we? Before we started, I mean, go figure.
Very triggered.
Yeah, it can only get better. Mm.
Yeah. I might just be running around in the room, doing this, if the net doesn't work. But Hamish, how have you been? How was your week?
It's been an interesting week.
Yeah?
It's been very good. I am. What day is it today? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. 5 days time and my podcast goes live. So I'm frantically editing and making reels and producing content and doing things called highlights, which apparently you've got a whole load of them. I'm just like, what's that? So I are learning. Age 55. I'm learning how to use Instagram. So yeah, never too late. So yeah, it's been a good
Yeah.
week, and England's hot again. It's getting nearly as warm as you guys are, so it's getting up into the mid 90s, early 90s. So it's for you, it's cool. For us, it's horrid.
Yeah. You're trying
Mm.
you're trying to catch up with our heat, huh? You're saying that you gotta get
We
there
are
where she is at.
we are trying to, yeah.
So
Mm.
Hamish, triggers. Oh my
Mm.
God. Would you want to dive in with giving an explanation of what triggers are to the audience?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So a trigger. I will pose it as a question. What
Mm-hmm.
happens if somebody says something to you and it upsets you? What happens to you if someone says something and you don't like it? What happens if someone says something or does something and it makes you feel really uncomfortable? Why does it make you unfeel? Why does it make you feel uncomfortable? Um, a lot of those times it is because whatever is being said to you or being done to you makes you uncomfortable because it's something that you haven't resolved, something you haven't thought about. So a good example is if someone tells you, please be quiet, because you're talking too much or because of whatever, they want to listen to something.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's fine. And sometimes some people go absolutely off the hand. Why should I be quiet? All this kind of thing exploding. What causes that reaction? So a trigger causes a reaction in somebody that is potentially not necessarily irrational, but it is unconscious.
Yeah.
And then it gets very uncomfortable, and then it stirs up an emotion that has to be dealt with. Otherwise, you just fall back into it another time. I think that's a very long-winded explanation. I think you've probably got a
Yeah,
better
yeah,
one.
but yeah, but we'll get. I do get what
Mm.
you're trying to say. So,
Mm.
Hamish, why do we get triggered then? Like,
Um, Lots of reasons.
uh-huh.
And I think that the biggest one is because there is stuff in our lives we don't like about ourselves. There is stuff in our lives we haven't sorted out. So
Mm-hmm.
going back to the will you please be quiet, and then why should I be quiet? Maybe parents told you off for being too happy and cheerful and bubbly and noisy, and a noisy, curious, happy child. Oh, be quiet. Oh, be quiet. Oh, be quiet. So every time that is said to you, it's as a child, it has dampened your joy.
Mm.
And then you get into adulthood, and that please be quiet triggers that ancient memory of being told you're too noisy, you're too much, that kind of thing. And as an adult, that's no longer relevant, but you've got to kind of bring these two stories together, reconcile them, love them, really, really important, love them, forgive them. And then next time someone says, be quiet, you go, okay, I'm sorry. Or, all that emotional charge has gone from it.
Do you think that the triggers are similar to exactly what happened in our childhood? Because I would say in our childhood, maybe our parents, the example you're using, the child
Mm.
was said, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, right? But in adult self, somebody just says, shh, you know? Like when I'm talking, I'm told shh, and then I get triggered. It's not
Mm.
necessarily the same words, right? It could be anything that looks similar to that. Or I think it's even sometimes the words are different, but it's how you receive it in your body.
Yeah, yeah. It's the energy behind it. It's also that it's also a memory. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot. It's also old stories, but it's very much it's stuff that you haven't processed. You haven't realized that you are enough, that it's okay to be noisy and cheerful and happy and loud and gregarious. Not all the time, obviously, but it's
Yeah.
it's it's there to be done. And as an adult, it's okay for someone to say, please be quiet, please stop talking. You know,
Yeah.
you might be somewhere where that you being quiet is important as an important message. Who knows what it is. So it's never about you. So the
Mm.
trigger is never about that person and you. It's an old event, as you said. It's an old event, but it weren't necessarily the same words. Think of PTSD. Think of a car backfiring. Sounds like a gun going off. Anybody who's been to war, they're on the floor like this with PTSD because that sound association brings back a memory of hell.
Yeah.
And it's the
Yeah.
same thing, but not so much hell. In some ways, in other ways, it could be. It could be the snap of something sounds like a belt coming off before someone was hit with a belt as a child, things like that. So it's noise, it's sounds, it's smells, it's
It's
coloured
a lot of things. It's
shirts.
a lot of things. When you're saying that, a lot is coming up
Yeah.
for me. I'm just
Mm.
thinking that when I left my husband and, it was narcissistic marriage and stuff. And when I left him, there were these particular things that he did, right? That defined his personality. And when I would see another man doing it, I would be Not, this person I'm not talking to, I'm not interacting, they're just standing. Maybe they're just smoking in a certain way, right? And
Mm,
I'm just looking. I would start to feel very unsafe around that person. And if that person looks at me, oh my, it's not that I was reacting outside, but internally I was feeling like I'm not safe, right?
mm,
And I didn't know in the beginning what was going on. Like, why
mm,
was I feeling that way till I joined the dots and realized anything that would remind me of my husband was a trigger point for me,
yeah.
in
Mm,
any capacity. And
yeah.
up till day now, he's no longer in this world, but up till day now, there are
Mm,
many things that I'm aware of that happened. Sometimes I'm not aware after the incident has happened and I've acted
mm,
out. For example, I
mm,
realize later on, when you reflect, why did I do that? That wasn't the kind of response that was needed in that moment. But then
mm,
you realize, oh, it was that trigger because that
yeah.
person never made you feel safe. And
Mm,
I was safe right now, but it just
mm,
didn't feel like I was safe.
yeah. Yeah.
No.
That's
So,
that's that's exactly it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it seems really simple right now. We both are so grounded and we're having this
Mm,
conversation, but I think there's so much to it because, Hamish, I think, and I believe that your triggers are more activated or come more forward when you're in an intimate relationship. All the buttons just kind of like go on. Like,
mm.
uh, why does that happen?
I have several theories for this. I think one of them is you're beginning to drop your guard.
Okay.
In that relationship, you've got that connection, you've got that love, you've got that tenderness, you've got that willingness to talk to each other and share. And
Yeah.
then when something, so you're doing this. You started to look at this person in front of you and started to open up your heart, and then
Yeah.
they say something, and it's like being hit with a baseball bat, or
Yeah.
or something happens, and because you've dropped your guard. When you're a boxer, you're protecting yourself, and when you're talking like this, it comes straight at you.
Yeah.
Um, and it's uncomfortable. It's very, very uncomfortable. I mean, you've got kids, and kids are the best triggers in the world. I mean, they're even better than a partner. Um, and yeah, they know how to press your buttons. Your kids will know how to press your buttons by giving you a look, raising an eyebrow, rolling their eyes, or something like that. And there's days that does nothing to you, and days you want to bite their heads off, and we'll stop there. And
I'll
but
give you
that's what
I'll
it
give
is.
you a more complicated one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I observed in my parenting that everything is fine from the time both my kids were born. Everything was fine. And the minute the child, I have a girl and then I have a boy. So they're different genders also. But the minute they turn 7, right? And
Mm-hmm.
as they grow from 7 till 15, I would say 14, 15, right? I'm the most loving, caring, blah 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 mother, but the minute they reach 7 or 10, right, it's the same way I start showing up, right? The same exact way I was showing. I was just having this conversation 2 days ago with my daughter, and I was like, I'm observing these things, and she's like, you're doing exactly what you did with me when I was 10 with him. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I'm realizing that. And Hamish, the funny part is I can't pinpoint why I'm doing that with that certain age. And then I keep on thinking what was happening in my childhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And am I reflecting that? So some of it is obvious, but some of it, it's just not making, it's coming, it's in my awareness, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not like I can't join the dots to why it's happening. I hope that's making sense.
Yeah, makes complete sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
and and maybe it won't. We live so much of our lives completely unconscious.
yeah,
You don't have to learn how to tie your shoes every morning, which is
yeah.
just as well. You don't have to remember where your mouth is every morning, otherwise you'd be wearing your breakfast. So we there's a lot of that benefit of being that unconscious, but also the disadvantage is we don't see those patterns.
It's
You know, I
not, it
have,
was,
I have.
it's not a nice feeling because
No.
I was like, I wasn't happy that night and I kept on
Mm,
crying. The only question was like, how much self work I have to do. Like, I've done so much. And you think you've done and now you're
mm,
good to go. And then
yep.
something happens and it feels like you've fallen 10 steps down, which you haven't actually. But the toll it takes on you, that, oh my God,
Mm,
is another thing that I have to unlearn and relearn. And, you know.
yep.
So that night was really hard. I had to cry it all out. And the next day I had to apologize to my son and have that conversation with him, where
Mm,
I'm coming from. And then
yep.
kind of validate what he was feeling when I
Mm,
dismissed him and stuff. But
yeah.
I just, we talk about triggers and stuff, and I just think, and then I also question, like you said, if it's in a way, it's ignorance is a bliss, right? So if you don't
Mm,
know it, you keep on doing that.
yep.
I obviously don't like that, because then I wouldn't be the person I am right now, more grounded
Mm,
and
yeah.
more mature and more,
Mm.
secure in myself. But it's a lot of hard work. Seems like it's never going to end.
I don't think it does. No, I think there's always layers to unpolish, aren't there? And like
Yeah,
yeah, they just crop up. It's think of an onion. There's a layer, and
yeah,
another layer, and another layer. Oh, I'm healed now.
yeah.
Boom! Oh
Boom, there
crap!
you
I'm
go.
not.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
what? You're what? Yeah. No. You still got a pulse. You're still alive. There's still more to learn. Yeah. Yeah.
So then,
So you.
how do you, like? So there are more layers to it, right? But when you achieve something, like,
Mm,
you reflect, something comes to you, you reflect, and you're like, okay, this is something I was doing that I shouldn't be doing, and you
mm,
heal that, or whatever, you overcome that, or whatever you do, and probably heal is the right word. And then you're living life, and then it throws you back down, right? So I, like you said, it's going to keep on happening, right?
mm.
Then how do you navigate through that? Because then it's constant. It can come after 1 week, 1 day, 1 hour, 1 year. Like a 1 year would be so nice, but like, where does it get better? How many years
Well,
of trauma do we have to process it?
I said, hang on. Have you got a pulse? You're still alive.
Yeah.
So let's start with some really good news. You're not going round in circles, so you're not resolving it, coming back to it, coming
Yeah.
back to it. It's a spiral going upwards.
Yeah.
So it's more nuanced, it's more subtle, it's another variation of it. Let's say, yeah, that's the simple thing. So when it comes back round again, there's more depth to it, there's more subtlety to it. It may be
Yeah.
completely different. It may be. I'm just trying to think on some of mine. On some levels, it may be very simple, and as I said, as you spiral up,
Yeah.
you realize you're doing it again, but slightly differently. It's almost like a cross addiction. You've cured alcohol, but now you're smoking cigarettes. So you meet it from a different guise, but you're also more aware of stuff happens.
Yeah.
You're also a bit more aware of these things do happen. You're also a bit more aware of, I have experienced triggers.
Mm.
Um, so you can spot them more easily. But
Yes.
other
Yeah.
times, you're just blindly going over them. I mean, I've had a couple of really interesting things this week happened, and they were very unpleasant. And I realised I'm very competitive. I have to argue my stance. I have to. In the past, I had to prove Hamish existed, to prove my worth, to prove the logic why I did something because there was one way of doing it growing up. I don't subscribe to that anymore. I know it's not
Yeah.
true. There were two ways. If I could argue it, if I could make a healthy argument for it, then it was okay. So I argue my case. So I will carry on talking and be competitive. So that cropped up earlier in the week, and it was unpleasant. And the scary, scary thing about this was I nearly called my girlfriend four previous girlfriends' names, and then I
Ooh.
realised. But the thing about that was I didn't to her face, but it's just I knew when you.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing was they all triggered me the same way,
Ooh.
and so yeah, which this is just think
So
this
it
through.
looks
So
like a
they
pattern.
yes, It was a pattern, absolutely. So it was a pattern,
Yeah.
and the pattern. So basically, it's almost like, the example is man, boy and girl meet, they fall in love, fall apart. He meets another girl, basically exactly the same problems, issues, this, that, and the other, different body. So that's what these were. These previous girlfriends had the same trigger points. They were triggering me because I
Mm.
hadn't healed that trigger.
And what
They
was your
they
trigger?
it was around being gentle. It was around not having to compete, around not having to fight my corner because I didn't have to anymore. Because I was about to say I'm right. I know I am right. What I'm feeling is right for me is what I meant by I'm right. Might not
Yeah.
be wrong. Might be wrong to everybody else. That feeling I was describing, that scenario was right for me. So I didn't need to prove it to you that I'm right and you're wrong. I didn't need
Mm.
that.
Makes
Um,
sense.
so yeah, so in the past with my wife, I would argue it's just like that's not fair. I'd get really defensive, and then other relationships it was more nuanced.
Yeah.
And then the other day it was just like I really do not need to. I still get triggered to hell.
Yeah,
It's
same.
still this is yeah, but it's just like there's no point, and it's not a big case of me backing down anymore, which I
Mm.
was. I'd either back down or bite. So I was
Mm.
no longer backing down.
Mm.
Um, it's just not relevant. So
Yeah.
the energy has gone out of it. So next time that happens, there's no charge to it. There's no energy, and the trigger is rather than bang, a
Yeah.
match thrown on diesel, it's a match thrown on water because
Mm.
I have dealt with it. If that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. We were talking about triggers before. You said that very beautifully that you're not going round and round in the same thing. You're going upward,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And for me, I've realized that the trigger, like you said, in the beginning it hits you hard when you're unaware,
Mm,
right? And
mm,
it's just coming in your awareness that something is off, and it's really hard at that time. I think now
mm,
I've come to a point where I've started to get curious. Okay.
mm,
So instead of being defensive or like saying like that night when I was not happy that I acted out like that with my son and I started crying, having a meltdown, right?
mm,
I had to like then after the crying, kind of like validate that it was okay, right? You were operating from a younger self, right? And
mm,
whatever happened, happened.
yeah.
But I've started to hold more curiosity around, okay, Hamish is not replying to me and I'm feeling ignored. He's my friend. He
Mm.
should instantly reply me. I know he has his phone in his hand. Um,
Yeah.
uh, but this is not about Hamish. This is about me. Why do I feel the need that my friend needs to always be available for me? What is
Mm,
that telling me and teaching me about me? So I've kind of like, instead of the trigger controlling me and taking me down the spiral, I've kind of become more curious,
mhm,
and
mm,
that kind of like grounds me more. Sometimes I just become quiet. If I'm in, I've seen that. I've been in settings and I got triggered, and I knew if I opened my mouth, nobody's going to be happy. So I just completely go quiet. I just pick up my phone and pretend that I'm not there, right?
mm,
And the person just understands she's not talking or that. So that's the
mhm,
best way I could do, because I'm trying to in that very moment try to process
mm,
what's going on, why are you feeling this way,
mm,
XYZ, stuff like that. So
mm,
it's really, I think, the way to navigate, I would say, triggers is, I mean, it just depends also how you are navigating it, is getting curious.
mm,
I think that if I get triggered and then I beat myself up that I acted that way, it doesn't serve me. So I have to own it that yes, I didn't show up the way I should have. But now I'm curious, instead of beating myself up,
mm,
I'm curious that why did I do this? Like, why did I want to scream? Or why did I throw the things on the floor or bang the door? Or we don't roll eyes anymore, but or
mhm.
whatever, kind of like that. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, that curiosity is the best cure for a tough life. Just get
Yeah.
curious about everything. It really, really is. Because with that curiosity, you start to see why you did it, and you start to realize that, as I said earlier, I had to defend my argument. I had to defend myself, explain myself why I wanted that, why I wanted this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And growing up, that was my coping mechanism to get what I wanted. I had to over explain. So
Mm.
that's all we're doing. We're just going back to that pattern as kids or young adults or wherever it cropped up. We knew it worked.
Yeah.
I'm not naming people, but I know I know somebody I know pretty well. They will say, "I'm really sorry, but I need to." They will when they're having a conversation with their spouse,
Yeah.
they will prepare them for what they're going to say, because they know if they don't, that person is going to frighten them, not physically hit them necessarily, but they are
Yeah.
going to explode verbally. Oh, you're wrong. You're talking. It's not my. You're blaming me. All this kind of thing. They just throw it all back at them. So they've
Mm.
learned to phrase it in such a way. Look, I want to tell you something, but it's not about you, and it's this and it's that. And meanwhile, the whole thing that they're trying to articulate, which is really, really sacred, important to them, they are making smaller and smaller and smaller and minimizing themselves so they don't risk getting hurt. So they're keeping themselves safe, and it's tragic. But that worked in a relationship, growing up, whatever, where there was that uncertainty. So
Childhood.
it goes back to coping strategies, usually childhood, but
Yeah.
it could be
Any
a little
traumatic
bit
event,
older.
like with me, it was
Yeah.
my marriage, right? I
Yes.
think,
Yeah.
I think, I think. Then how you're saying things, it's safe to say that a trigger is a warning to, and however you're reacting with that trigger, basically
Mm,
what you're trying to do is you're trying to protect yourself because you're not feeling safe. So your
yeah.
trigger is basically telling you that you're not safe with this person,
Yeah.
and you have to do something to feel safe. That is why people uh usually have the explosions. So
Mm.
Hamish, now that we understand that two people not processed at all, and when like for example it's you and me, you're triggered, I said something, and you say something back to me because you were
Mm.
triggered, right? No, I'm triggered. Now two people are triggered. Oh, how is that going to go?
Well, if you go back to the relationships, they fall apart. If you're
Yeah.
not able to deal with it, they fall apart, and then he goes off in a huff, she goes off in a huff. He
Mm.
finds a new girlfriend, she finds a new boyfriend. We're just being very binary here because it's
Yeah,
easier,
yeah, yeah,
and because they haven't processed it, he goes and finds a woman who has the same traits as the previous one, like my four girlfriends.
yeah.
Because I hadn't resolved them.
Mm,
Same thing happens.
mm,
Same thing happens until you deal with it, and then your energy changes, your capacity to understand that situation changes. You've
mm.
basically resolved you've basically resolved something that happened in your past. You've completed it. You know this as a therapist, but a lot of trauma is not what happened, but how we processed it or didn't finish completing processing it. And so
Yeah.
that's what you're doing. The trigger allows you to see that uncompleted
Unfinished business. That
understanding.
unfinished business that
Thanks.
was left in
That's
your
the
soul.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
and then you and then you finish it. So it's
Yeah.
actually really simple. It's very beautiful. And it
Mm,
often times for me, what works for me is going just sort of not necessarily going back to that event, but realizing that I found a way to make sense of stuff. Little Hamish didn't know what to do. He wasn't, didn't want, couldn't get that, couldn't get that, couldn't get that. So he worked out if he managed to
mm,
intelligently articulate why he wanted it, what it was for, why he needed it, why it was important, then he would get it.
mm.
Not always, but then he would get it.
Yeah.
So, hence the over explaining. Hence the
Yeah.
over explaining, because I want something from you, so I'm going to basically wear you down by talking, by talking, by talking until you give it.
Mm. Interesting.
And
Mm,
yeah, and
mm,
and over time it's served me, it's not served me, and then so I go back and realize that Hamish back then was brilliant. He found a way to make sense. Brilliant, well done, you. So I
mm,
go back and congratulate him. Inner child work, say you are brilliant before going, why the hell have I done it again, and beating him up and myself up. So
Yeah.
I have to forgive Hamish then for when it happened. I also have to forgive Hamish yesterday for exploding and the day before, and realizing I didn't know. I didn't
Mm,
realize, I was unaware that I was acting like I was acting out an old story.
mm,
So it's forgiveness, lack of judgment,
mm,
but as you temper that self judgment, your self esteem goes up, so it becomes easier to do. So it's a beautiful process of growing, and
yeah.
the more you spot your triggers, the easier it is to even yeah, the more you spot them, the easier it is to go, okay, I'm dealing with something. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but if I don't, I'm going to do this pattern again. I'm going to do this
Yeah.
pattern again. I'm going to do this pattern again. I'm going to do this pattern again. And 5 years later, you're still doing it. You're 5 years older. You 5 years of your life of your loss. You could have been living differently. So
Yeah.
you know, it makes sense to deal with them as you can. Find a counselor, find someone, work through it, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Hamish, I'm interested. You said, four girlfriends and same pattern, right? And with your present girlfriend, I guess, it kind of like showed you that, okay, it's been happening, right?
Yeah.
So, obviously, the four you've left, they're in your past, and now you have the fifth one. What's changed? Did you leave her, or were you able to say, okay, I'm triggered? What has changed in this Hamish, which Hamish with those four girls he was doing before and is not doing anymore?
Communication.
Hmm.
We're
Okay.
talking.
Okay.
We're talking. I'm going to say I'm older and wiser and better looking. So definitely
Yeah.
wiser.
Yeah.
You know, that's just life experience.
Yeah.
Much better at communicating. I didn't communicate with my wife. We never talked. We just avoided confrontation at all costs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, just that's
Mm.
just what we did. Sadly,
Yeah.
very sadly, because she wasn't a bad person. It just, you know, we
Yeah.
just triggered each other and didn't know how to resolve it.
Yeah.
Um, and so we have talked about, and we haven't done this yet, is having a safe word. So when the arguments start happening, or I trigger, you trigger, like, right, let's say abracadabra. That's the safe word, abracadabra, and that
Yeah.
means stop talking.
Yeah.
Right. Let's be adults. Let's stop talking. Hamish, I need 5 minutes by myself to unwind, to calm down, to appreciate what's happened. You take 5, 10 minutes, and then we will come back. But the important thing is to come back and talk. Otherwise,
So
you've
do you
just
think so in a triggered I'm just curious to ask you, do you think in a triggered situation the best thing is to disengage or just use the safe word and just sit with each other and even just talk like, okay, what's coming up for you? Or do you think disengaging is the right thing? Or it would vary from person to person, I think.
well, that disengaging is only half of it. That's a start. You have to communicate. Disengaging is like pushing an emotion away that's too far, too much. It's just like, I'm not going to think about that. I'm not going to feel it. I'm not going to hide it. I'm just going to bottle it up. So
Yeah, yeah.
if you trigger me about something and I just bottle it up and get resentful, and it happens again, and I get more resentful, and I bottle it up and I bottle it up, and it's in here, and I'm resentful and I'm cross, and this, it's going to do that. If I
Mm.
disengage with you and just say, look, Mirish, I need 10 minutes, otherwise I'm going to rip your head off. So I need 10 minutes to calm down,
Uh,
and then we will come back. You've got to come back and just say,
yeah.
when I feel. So there's this lovely language, which I can't remember what it's called, but basically it's not accusing you. So I'm not saying
Yeah.
you do this and it upsets me. When this
Mm.
happens, I feel. And so I'm not accusing you. I mean, I've had this conversation with my partner, and it's like, what happened earlier on is I heard my father's voice in how you said things.
Mm.
So I start off with saying, you didn't say this to me. This is an old echo from a memory from a long time ago. So this is
Yeah.
not about you as I'm talking to you. This is me dealing with stuff that's come up. But it's taken me 55 years to appreciate this. 54 years. I'm not 55 yet. It's taken me 54 years to get to this point
Uh,
where I'm able to say, it's not about you when you've triggered me. Um, it's a echo from the past.
Yeah.
It is that child growing up who made sense of something, and that's how it worked. And so it is come back, talk, listen. I mean, one good way of, if both of you are really prone to talking, having a talking stick, have something, I'm going to talk,
Mm.
and then pass it back, and then be respectful. But it's
Yeah.
communicating, and it's hard. It is hard because you're being very vulnerable, having just been triggered. So you're
Yeah.
you're on edge. Your body's doing this. You're uncomfortable and everything. But you got to come back and talk, and then in that process of coming back, it's just like, this is what you have helped me find where it came from. It came from in my past. I know what it is, and I express having to articulate myself, having to over explain, having to raise my voice, because that was the only way I could do it. And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But however, thank you for helping me see that, because
Mm.
inadvertently there's been a beautiful piece of healing coming from realizing that that trigger that I had gave me a chance to see something in my past and change it and
Mm.
diffuse it. And suddenly all the energy's gone. And
Mm.
suddenly I don't have to argue. And this is the important thing. I don't have to argue, and I
Yeah.
don't shut down. Like you
Mm.
said, you go on your phone. Are you shutting down on your phone, or you're going, I'm not interested. This is not about me. This is not relevant. But if I can choose to disengage, not disengage, if I can choose to not get caught up in it, rather than back down, rather than um, feel feel like I'm beaten up. If I'm actively choosing, I don't need this anymore. It's not relevant. I don't need to compete with my girlfriend. I'll let her finish talking. She can do this. She can do that. I'm not backing down aggressively or however. I'm at peace.
Mm.
And then making an active choice to choose to be calm about it is magic, because you're just all the energy's gone.
Yeah.
And
I
it's beautiful.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of not a lot, but a few clients who've come to me, Hamish, and when we did this, they were like, "That's a lot of work. We don't want to do that." And obviously, it's a lot of work because we're not brought up like that, So it
Mm,
does seem not a work. So my thing has always been like, then you can continue and have the same results. It is a lot of work, but it's also very rewarding. And interestingly, when you were talking, I was just thinking that, when you gave my example back to me, that when I get triggered and I shut down and I'm holding the phone, that example, I think for me, what I've understood, my triggers are different with different people, right? So
mm,
if you, for example, you and I are on a call and you trigger me, I
mm,
know in my body, especially, I'm safe with my this friend, right?
mm.
So for me to say to you becomes easier, Hamish, you've triggered me, something's coming up, I'm going to hang up and call you back, right?
Yeah.
And then there are spaces where I know that this person's triggered me,
Mm,
and I know that never going to be, or I'm not safe because they're not there in that
mm,
awareness, that I need to share that with them. Oh, you've triggered me, because it's just going to go another toxic route, right?
mm,
So in those spaces, I've learned to shut down. Shut down is the right word. Shut
mm,
down, disengage, hold my phone, and only work on what is this bringing up for you, Mavish?
mm,
Why are you triggered? Because all I can do is take care of myself. And I
mm,
know that even when I'm grounded and understand, and I engage, and they try to bring that thing up, I don't need to go there anymore.
mm. Yeah.
I just say I'm not interested, or I don't want to talk
Mm,
about it, or stuff like that.
mm,
And then there are triggers. I think it really gets hard with parents. It gets really hard because if they trigger you, and then it's something that happened in your childhood, is a lot of frustration and anger, and you really want to. So then again, I've seen that for me, the best thing is I walk away from my parents when they
mm,
trigger me, and I know I'm going to say stuff that I'm going to regret saying because they're getting old, and it's not fair on them.
mm.
Uh, because their mindset is they're doing their best for me, so
Mm.
this conversation is not going to go anywhere. So I
Yeah.
just I disengage, I just walk away,
Mm.
and I
Yeah.
sit with it for myself, because
Mm,
I have to process for myself. I
mm.
can't,
Yeah.
I can't just be like suppress it or don't.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
then the difficult thing is with my kids, right? So I have a 10-year-old and I have a 16-year-old. The 16-year-old
Mm.
still understands. She's emotionally very intelligent. I mean, she could be far greater therapist than I am. I see that. She's awesome. She's
Mm,
amazing. But with my son, when I'm triggered, right, I can't tell him, and I've tried that, mama wants you to walk away.
mhm,
There are times he says, I don't want to walk away. And it's
mm,
really building up. And it's like, no,
mm,
Suleiman, you need to walk away. Please just walk away. I'm having a moment. And
mm,
it gets harder with the younger child because they don't understand. They need that instant reaction or attention, whatever, in that moment
mm,
from a parent.
mm,
So I think for me, triggers are different with different people. And
mm,
for me, at where I'm at, I think with adults where I'm safe, or with adults that I'm not safe, it's
mm,
become easier for me to navigate through that.
mm. Yeah.
But in recent times, I've seen that triggers with my kids are becoming the hardest because there's this
Mm,
gap, like I'm telling you. The minute they turn a certain age and till they're a certain age,
mm,
I'm a different person with them. I don't know why,
mm,
and that is frustration, and the nothing is coming up. I'm trying to figure out, and there's no connection coming up. So it's really frustrating. So then again, I'm not being hard on myself. It's just, okay, I'm curious
mm,
why I can't do that for my child. Not that I have to do that or I have to force myself, but I'm more curious. So I
mm,
think, it's beautiful when you can, tell the person, you've triggered me, I need to step away. And then you step away for 10 minutes, have a glass of water or whatever you want to do,
mm.
and then you come back and you talk. You can't have that with every person. If some person
No.
someone in front of you say, no, I need an reply right now. What do you mean you're
Mm,
triggered? Blah, blah, blah.
mm.
That kind of
Yeah.
thing. So
Mm,
I've learned over time with interacting with different people and getting triggered, is that I have to understand me,
yeah.
right, and do what is best for me in that
Mm,
moment.
mm,
And sometimes it's just like, I'm triggered, can we just sit here? I've
mm,
done that with my friend, and she's like, yeah, we can. And she sat there with me, and she said, and I said, just don't even say anything, just stay quiet.
mm,
It's okay, I'm safe with you to stay in the room, but
yeah.
let's not talk about this because I'm getting really triggered
Mm,
and it's not going to come out nice. And
mm,
then she's held my hand and we sat together, and then we let it pass, and then
mm,
it's usually with my friends, it's usually like, okay, let's order an ice cream, or can we get
yeah.
chocolate or something like that,
Mm,
just kind of like to process. And then
yeah.
it really works. So for me, food
Mm,
really works. The
mm,
minute I have food in my mouth, I can tell you, oh, this is what's happened. um so
mm,
so that kind of thing. So there are different techniques, I think, to calm down your triggers and
mm,
ways, but I
yeah.
think it's just about understanding where they're stemming from.
Yeah. Mm,
A lot of
yeah.
my triggers are from my marriage. There was a lot
Mm,
of emotional neglect, and narcissistic abuse is horrific.
mm,
So
mm,
so there's a lot
yeah.
of learning and unlearning and relearning, and there was a part of me that was very angry for the longest, that not at the person, Hamish. It was like, Mavish, why did you do that to yourself?
Mm,
And I had to switch between that anger to
mm,
holding that self-compassion, that it's
yeah.
okay, you were doing your best with
Mm,
what you knew at 26 or at 30 or at 38.
yeah.
So it's been a
Mm,
journey. It's
yeah.
been a journey you
Yeah.
know
It,
yeah.
it is. While you were saying that and about your son, I mean, my sister, her child is 7, nearly
I'm going to
8.
myself. Yeah.
Um, and she gets triggered, and they've talked through this a lot. And she says, "Listen, daughter, Anais, I love you.
Mm.
I love you to bits. I need some time. So
Yeah.
you're safe.
Mm.
Mummy needs some time by herself to have a cup of tea. But
Yeah.
I love you, and you're safe." And that works.
Oh, I'm going
So
to try that. Yeah.
yeah, because all you're doing is reassuring the child that they're loved,
Yeah.
and that mummy currently is dysregulated, and
Yeah.
if you hang around here much longer, she might do something she regrets. Whether, yeah, we
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
park it there. We'll leave imaginations.
Yeah.
But what you also touched on there was really really important, is in a relationship.
Yeah.
You said, you know, I'm not deliberately triggering you. So if I say something that triggers you, you know me well enough to know that it wasn't deliberate.
Yeah. Yeah.
With a girlfriend, with a boyfriend, with a friend, with a partner, when you're triggered, for me, the ideal would be, ouch, that really hurt. I love you. You didn't do it on purpose. I'll tell you a story about this in a minute. And um, and then it's just like, I love you. She loves me. That hurt. She didn't mean to do it on purpose. But I've got to join all these dots in the same time as my system is going, that fucking hurt. I feel offended. I feel whatever. I
Yeah.
have to deal with all that noise and saying, I
Yeah.
love her. She loves me. She didn't mean to. And then that becomes stronger. And then the trigger, all the noise behind the trigger is made sense of, because then I realized that it wasn't a deliberate dig at me. It wasn't being unkind.
Hmm.
Um, does that make sense?
It does make sense, but it's very complicated as well because for me, when I'm triggered, by anyone I love, by a friend, with
Mm-hmm.
from a parent or anybody,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not thinking about I love this person
No,
at
no,
all.
no. It's
I
hard.
am I'm like I'm hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm hurt. This person
Mm-hmm.
has hurt me,
Yep.
and now you. The thing is like go after them, like say this
Yep.
and you're this and you're that. So the awareness instead of exploding is
Mm-hmm.
okay. I hear you, maybe you're hurt. Let's
Mm-hmm.
stay with it,
Yeah.
So I just stay with the hurt instead of understanding. For example, with you, if you've triggered me, I'm not gonna go. I used to do that, but I don't anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
completely detach myself from what Hamish is, right? Hamish is
Yeah.
a good person. Hamish, I'm safe with Hamish. Hamish is my friend. No, detach. I don't care. In this moment, Hamish made me feel unsafe, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I need to sit with it and say, okay, Mavish, I got you. You're safe. But what's
Mm-hmm.
going on, right?
Yeah.
And then
Mm-hmm.
once I prioritize that feeling,
Mm-hmm.
then I know, that
Brilliant.
this person didn't mean it. This
Yeah.
person, in any case, most even the toxic people, they don't know they're doing it, right? I'm not talking about two
Mm-hmm.
people who are healthy and they trigger each
Yeah.
other, but toxic
Mm-hmm.
people also don't it. So for me, when I'm not engaging because I know this person is toxic, I also know that they're operating from an unconscious self and it's
Mm-hmm.
about them.
Yep.
It's about them. It's not about me. I got
Yep.
triggered because something in
Mm-hmm.
me has left unfinished, and I need to
Yeah.
understand what that is.
Yeah.
So that where you're too good with like you love that person, and this person is I don't do that. I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I really started just kind of like focusing on putting myself first in that moment.
Mm-hmm. We've now got two ways of doing it. We've now got
Yeah.
two really excellent, and I love that. I love that way of being able to put yourself first and doing that. I mean, that is
Taken me a
brilliant.
long time to get here.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's likewise.
Because
And I think there's
before it was like Hamish, you triggered me, right? Then it would be like, okay, I'm feeling anxious, my heart rate is high because I'm feeling
mm,
unsafe, or I'm getting angry, right? So I'm getting a headache or
mm,
something, and I'm like, no, but this is Hamish, this is my friend, he's a good person, he cares for me, he's always there for me, and then the feeling is not settling, right? Because I'm trying
mm,
to see where he's coming from. So I had to really say that it does
mm,
work, but it is a longer process for me because
yeah,
I'm putting the person in front of me first. So then I had to be like, no. And it's a very
mm,
recent thing. I think it's been 6 months where I'm like, no,
mm,
no matter, even with my kids, no, it's me. This is
mm,
coming up for me because it's probably that little Mavish when she was maybe 5 or maybe 7 or 10. So I
mm,
have to cater to that. So I
yeah,
completely detach and just really try to be with me.
yeah, mm, yeah. Brilliant, brilliant. I think that's great, and that's one I'm going to take that, and I'm going to do that as well, because it really works. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
super.
Yes.
Um, I'm going to give you an example without all the expletives for how this worked for me. I've got this lovely friend in South Africa, and we were it was text. We were SMSing back, not text, WhatsApping backwards and forwards. I mean, you know how easy it is for a word to get twisted the wrong way
Oh,
round.
yeah. Yeah.
And she said something, and it's just like I was so hurt.
Yeah.
It was just like, and then it's just like, well, no, you don't say things like that.
Yeah.
You don't say things like that. You're my friend. You don't mean that.
Yeah.
But I'm so fucking hurt. I mean, it really. I've never been hurt so much by a word or two, and it surprised the hell out of me. So it really, really was a lesson I needed to learn.
Yeah.
Um, and I had to go backwards and forwards. But she's friend. But I'm safe. She didn't mean it. It was a joke, and I knew it was. So
Yeah.
I rang her up and I said, I need to talk to you. It's okay, but I need to talk to you. And then I said to her, I said, what you said to me, I said, it triggered me so much. I wanted to fly all the way to South Africa, take your head off, pull your guts out, throw them all over, and get your dog to pee all over your body. But I said it exactly. I said
Yeah.
it was such a ridiculously over the top that she was crying with laughter. I was crying with laughter, and it diffused everything. And then we talked about it because I knew she didn't mean it, and she didn't mean it. But
Yeah.
it was the most beautiful conversation I had with a friend saying, you upset me for another reason, that echo of whatever it was. And we talked about it and we laughed. And I've done it to her since. I've said things and she's had to go, hang on, he didn't mean that like that. He didn't mean it like that. A trigger. You didn't mean it like that. And it was beautiful. So we talked through it and had a
Yeah.
laugh.
Yeah.
And that sentence, those words have no charge anymore.
Yeah.
You can just say that all day to me. Might get bored of it, but there's no energy in that sentence. There's no hurt. There's no pain. So it was well and truly gotten rid of with curiosity, with humor. Humor is such a great way of getting rid of triggers. It really, really
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Hamish,
So yeah, there we are.
something, I'll share that and then I probably we can wrap up. I
Mm,
have my cousin, right? My mom's sister's daughter, right?
mm,
We've been together since childhood, right? And now we're in our 40s, so it's a lifelong uh, uh, relationship. So
mm,
when I moved back from US, right? She kept my nickname, and the name was Dog. Okay, so every time I call her, she's like, "Yes, dog, what's up?" Right? So it never bothered me. So it's been going on for years. It never bothered me. It was said out of love, and my understanding where she calls me is just out of love. She's kept her
mm,
nickname, and it's weird, but it is what it is, right?
mm,
And then one fine year, it started triggering me. I'll
mhm,
call her, and she's like, "Yes, dog," and I would pause, like I couldn't speak. And I was triggered and I was like, how dare you talk to me like that? That was coming up. And I would pause and like, no, it's okay. She's been calling me that. And then, in family gatherings or if we're outside in a restaurant, say, dog, come on, dog, let's take a picture and stuff like that. And I really, it took me a while. It took me like 6, 7 months to like, she's been saying that for years. Like, what's going
mm,
on? And I was like, this is not sitting with me, right? So in the middle of the night, she's my cousin. We've been together. It was so
mm,
uncomfortable.
mm,
I sent her a message, hey, you up? Even if you're not, there's something I need to express.
mm.
And she instantly messages, hey, what's up? Everything okay? It's pretty late. And I was like, yeah, there's something I need to say to you, and this is not about you. This is about me. And
Yeah.
she goes, okay.
Such important language.
Yeah, yeah. And then she goes, go ahead. And then I sent her a voice note, right? And I said, listen, I know you've been calling me dog and stuff like that, but I think I'm kind of like changing and evolving as a person. And it's kind of triggering my sense of worth. Okay. And I'm learning that you train people how they treat you, right? So I'm training myself and my brain that somebody calling me a dog is okay. And it's not sitting with me anymore. So I'm kind of like taking the bar up of my self respect and my self worth. And now the dog is not sitting with me. I'm feeling not happy in being called a dog in public, just in a text message. Or so please, it's not about you, it's about me. Can you stop calling me that?
Hmm.
And that's it. So I sent her that, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to go so bad and stuff like that. And she said, I love you. She said, I love you. You're so adorable the way you said it. And absolutely, I'll stop calling you that.
Mm.
Hamish, bingo, bingo. It completely went. And here and there, I think after that, in the past, I think 2.5 years, it slipped out of her mouth. Initially, I would, like the first two times it did, I was pissed off. But then
Mm.
and I just like, I don't really laugh on it because then I'm making it,
Yeah.
encouraging it. So I just
Mm.
kind of like ignore it, like I didn't hear it, you know.
Mm.
It like it doesn't have a charge for me. Like I don't get like that. But I just
Mm.
kind of like, neutral. I just say neutral,
Mm.
so I'm not encouraging it. So, sometimes I think that triggers, sometimes you're not triggered by something and you do get triggered
Mm.
also. and
Yeah.
and 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 if I didn't have that communication with my cousin, now that I'm
Mm.
reflecting, and I just would have said, stop calling me dog, what's your problem? Her reaction would be, dude, I've been calling you this for you, what's your problem,
Yeah.
and it would have been that typical toxic kind of like fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
um, so
Wow.
when you said it was so beautiful, it just came to me, and I just realized that, and after that, I've made it a point. I made it a point. No, you don't mock me, even if it's just for jokes. I don't
Hmm.
like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it, and I call it out. I know it's a cultural thing. We respect our elders and blah blah blah, but I don't. Somebody calls me, oh, you've gained, like he's my uncle, right? And he's old, and if he calls me out on my weight, I tell them. The only
Mm.
thing is that I'm choosing is that it has to be respectful,
Yep.
and I don't have to be triggered, and I don't need to sound loud and stuff. Still work in progress. But I've stopped not addressing what doesn't sit here. This
Yeah.
is not making me happy. Don't talk about my weight, whether I'm fat or thin or whatever. No, you
Mm.
don't do that. Sorry.
Yeah.
I walk away. I think a lot of times the triggers is also connected to your sense of worth,
Yeah.
right? And until and unless I like you said, we do not talk about it because especially in our culture, we're told, be the good girl, right? Don't talk. We don't talk. We
Mm.
just smile and say yes and yes to everything, and
Mm.
that's what we're supposed to do and stuff. So we don't learn how to use our voice.
Yeah.
I don't like if somebody calls me, uh your skin color is too dark, when you're a kid, when you're growing up. I can't say, how dare you say that to me. I would imagine my mom giving me a big slap on my face. So
Mm.
so from a very young age in our culture,
Mm.
it's a cultural conditioning where we are taught, both boys and girls, not just girls, in different ways, in different forms.
Mm.
um People come first,
Mm.
the family name comes first,
Mm.
your dad's respect comes first, your grandfather's respect comes first. So you become invisible in your
Yeah.
childhood, you're invisible, right? And then kind of
Mm.
like having that conversation, now it's very uncomfortable to stand up and say, no, this doesn't work, I
Mm.
can't do this, or
Yeah.
this is making me uncomfortable. So when I
Mm.
think about those clients, I see where they were coming from. Oh, this is a lot of hard work.
Mm.
And I was like, yes, it is, because we were never given this language. We never
Mm.
had that,
Yeah.
given to us. So we
Mm.
have to learn that this is the right way forward for all of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, well, first of all, absolutely, you
Yeah.
have to learn, and as you said, you were brave enough to say to your cousin who's called you that for 40 years, please don't do that anymore. It doesn't suit me, and she went, cool.
Yeah.
How? And you said you were all ready to disappear down the smallest wormhole and hide and never come out again. And she went, of course, I love you.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
It was
it
that
was that
easy. Ooh.
easy. It
Yeah.
was that easy. You said it. It
It
was
was.
that easy. And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that is the thing. When the triggers arise, if when you have the capacity to be honest to yourself and other people, they go, yeah. And of course she slipped up because it's 40 years of calling you that. She slipped up occasionally, but the charge wasn't there. There wasn't that ouch. They're just like, no, please don't. It's like, I realise you slipped because your emotional intelligence has risen. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's amazing how quickly these things can change. You know, they say change takes time. No, it doesn't. As soon as you change your mind, things start to change. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think for me, what's coming up, and this is just what's coming up right now, I will sit on it and write my thesis on it. But I think that
Absolutely. Yeah.
triggers are also reflecting your sense of worth, you know.
Yes. Very much.
uh with the dog example, obviously, I'm just thinking that now, even when I'm looking back, it didn't bother me, because I didn't really have that respect for myself. You can call me
Mm,
whatever, or you can
mm,
walk over all over me, I'll be a doormat, whatever, as long as you're in
mm.
my life, and blah blah
Yeah.
blah. I
Yeah.
was
Mm,
operating for that people pleasing kind of thing.
mm,
And then when that bar raised, I wasn't in that
mm,
conversation. It was uncomfortable, and I wanted to hide and whatever, but I was still doing it.
mm,
I didn't care if my cousin and my relationship stayed or didn't
mhm.
stay. In that moment, I had to do what served me, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Mm,
what happens. Some relationships stay, some relationships
mm,
fall, and
yeah.
that's information and feedback, nothing to do with your worth. So that
Mm,
was beautiful that she took it, she laughed at it, and she says, "Girl, I love you, what's up?" Yeah, sure, you
mm,
know. And it could have been the other way now. No, I won't stop calling you that. I've been calling
yeah.
you forever. I'm going to keep on calling that. And I won't have
Mm,
talked to her, you know, if she would
no.
aggress me by that. And it
Yeah.
would just been eventually falling off, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm,
I think that where triggers are telling you, uh, I need to feel safe in this moment with this person, with this situation, they're also kind of showing you how you're operating, from what level of self worth you're
absolutely.
operating from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hamish, is there anything you want to say before we wrap it up? I had so many
Um.
questions coming up, like what are men's triggers, what are women's triggers? But I thought
Oh,
that's going to be another one hour.
that'll have to be another week. But
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. I think when you are fortunate enough to receive them and spot them, because we receive them all the time. But when you actually spot them, then you have it's such a gift to change. It's such a gift to heal something in your past that you're taking with you, and it's like dragging a great big log. You know, it's not serving you at all. It's not
Mhm.
allowing you to thrive. So embrace it. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Have a
Mhm.
conversation with somebody. Tell them how you're feeling. Um, but most, if it's a friend or a loved one or a child or someone you care for who cares for you, they're going to be supportive. And if they're not, they weren't
Yeah.
really there for you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I don't think so. I've had yet a conversation with anybody that has triggered me, and I've communicated that it's gone south. It's actually deepened the relationship, greater respect for each
mm,
other, and we as friends we become more closer, you know, in a
yeah.
very different, healthier way.
Mm,
And the people I've just not engaged with has also gone pretty good for me.
yeah,
Yeah, because it
absolutely.
wasn't worth it. Now you know that these people are worth having the conversation that you triggered me, and
Yeah.
these people are not worth having that conversation. I think that's
Yeah.
also very important to distinguish and understand.
Yeah. Because
Mm.
you're putting your self worth first, as you
Yeah,
said. I no longer need to be treated like a dog or called dog. So
yeah.
it doesn't work for me. Great. I know people who were they called themselves Andy for 30 years. And said, no, I'm actually Andrew.
Mm.
Exactly the same thing. Andy is throwaway. Andrew, I am Andrew.
Yeah.
People change some people keep their nickname. Someone say, no, I actually want to be known my name because that's me, not
Yeah.
a nickname. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
is. It's self-respect. It's self-compassion. It's and
I
also
think it's
being more
just
gentle.
data. Triggers are just data. They're just data about life scripts of how you're
Yeah.
operating, where you're operating
Mhm.
from, and we just have to take them as feedback. And before we say anything, just pause and reflect of where that is coming from. I think if we could sum
Yeah.
it up, I guess
Yeah. And it's very much easier said than done. It is
it's so
hard to
easier
spot
said
it
than
when
done.
you're yeah. When you're in the heat of it, when something sets you off, especially when it's something painful, it's very, very hard.
Yeah.
Hence a safe word. Hence, hang on, take five to feel it, and then have a conversation again, and then you will work it out, communicate it, understand, and you will get triggered again because
Mhm.
it happens.
Yes.
But you spot it, but you feel it, but you realise, going back to your cousin, when she accidentally said dog, she didn't mean it. It was just
Yeah.
an old habit.
Yeah.
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 But it does change. You do change very, very quickly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Hamish,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming forward and having this conversation. Thank God the net stayed well because you were inside.
Ah!
I had to trigger you.
Oh!
Oh man. Uh,
Damn!
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Hamish, take care of yourself. Have a
Yeah,
good
and you.
evening, good night,
Yeah,
and I'll catch you next Friday.
absolutely. Take care. That was a good call. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye bye.